All right, this is Scott here at Spank Odds. I've got Fats with me here. We're going to do a real quick segment on how to read Spank Odds on a particular game. We're going to end up calling this What Would Fats Do? There is one very, very important game tonight. I'm sure everybody's going to be watching it. When the eventual national championship is played, Nebraska will be in it and win it this year with Matt Rule. So, what we'd like to know here is Fats, is there any games here on the board that you would like to read for us? And I have a feeling it's going to be 145 Nebraska.
Well, yeah. So basically, by the way, you did hit the record button, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So basically, what we're going to do with this segment, we're going to try and come to you once a week because at least 10 times a week, Scotty calls me and says, Fats, I see this line on this game, and this guy has this, and this guy has this. What would you do? So we're going to make this a little segment, and Scotty's going to hit me up once a week with anywhere from 1 to 3 games, and he's going to ask, what would I do? And we'll look at the lines on the particular game he's asking about, and I'll give you an analysis as to which way I think it's leaning. Would I do nothing? Would I be on alert to do something, et cetera, et cetera? So the game is the Nebraska-Minnesota game, and I know Scotty's sitting there with his fingers crossed and praying that I'm going to come up with a reason for him to bet Nebraska because that's what he wants to do anyway. He's probably going to do it if I said Minnesota was a stone lock and you should, based on the information, bet your entire bankroll on Minnesota. He'd probably still bet Nebraska, but despite that, we're gonna take a look at this game and see if we can come up with a reasonable analysis. So the first thing we're going to look at is we see that Sports 411 is at 6.5 minus $1.15, which is the only 6.5 out there, and they're taking a limit of 20,000 on this game, I believe.
Yeah, you can see that in the drop down that showed up when I hovered over the 6.5. It's right here in that blue box.
Now Penny is 7 minus 05, which is, but they're using a 12-cent line, so that's basically they're using 7. They're shading it a little bit to the dog, and they're only taking 10,000 right now. And then you've got Circa, which is a solid 7, and they're taking 30,000. Mm-hmm. Now, if you pull up the line histories on these games,
which book? Which book?
I go to Circa. If you pull up the line history from Circa, because they're I think one of the first places that puts a line up, they were originally 8 on this game at the beginning. So this game has come down and has shown some money for the dog. The information I have on this game, which you can't necessarily tell just from looking at the Don bets, is that there's a lot of sharp money that's leaning on the Nebraska side. So I definitely would not do anything with the 6.5 at Sports 411 because it's likely that by game time you could see 6.5 all over the place. I would keep my eyes open for a possible 7.5 or a cheap 7.5. And definitely if another 6.5 were to pop up anywhere, even 6.5 minus 15, I would say plus 7.5 at minus $1.15 would be a great way to go on this game.
Fats, look at this bottom line for a second. The very first second that Circa opened this at 10 o'clock in the morning, they opened it as a 6.
But the limit's 0, so they never really opened at 6. They were thinking about opening at 6, and then they opened it 8 because the limit.
I see what you're saying.
The limit's 5,000. It was 0 when it was 6, and the limit's 5,000 when they have it at 8. So most likely they put their whole line in the thing, which Don Vestal will read, or not the Spank Odds will read it when they put it in the system, but they put the limits in too. And so they'll put all the lines in, and then they'll sit there as they had in the discussed in the panel at Bet Bash, that they will take the, they'll put their lines up, and then they'll go through the whole board and then decide, as a group, do we want to adjust it a little more this way or a little more that way? And then they decide what they officially want to open. And then that's when they attach an amount to it.
Okay, so if you're looking at this 8 right here, would that tell you that Jeff Benson and his crew doesn't respect Nebraska as much as the market does? Given
it just means that they think that at 8 they were going to get more two-way action than they might have gotten at 6.
Okay.
That's all that they're trying to put up what they think is the best number at the time they put their opening lineup. But when they take a hit, they're not afraid to move that line aggressively to get to where they think the numbers should eventually be. Now, while we've been sitting here, Circa went from 7 flat to +7 -05 and -7 -15. So actually, it looks like Circa took a little bet on the favorite, which is interesting. So at this point, I would say I would do nothing, but I would keep my eyes on the game moving towards the dog, even though there's that slight move on Circa. It's kind of it's very interesting. What's really interesting is that you're split between Penny, Circa, and Sports 411. They're 6.5 -15 to 7 -15, and kind of 7 flat right in the middle. So there is, this game could easily be a two-way action game, but I know people that do like the dog, so I'm going to assume that I'm going to assume Chris to be Sports 411 to be the right one here, but I'm not going to do anything until I see more line movement later in the day, and then if I do anything, I'll grab something then.
Okay, and I think that's just as valuable to know this is a game we might want to lay off of as it is to know what side to bet. So I think that's a great analysis. Is there anything else you want to say about Nebraska or the Minnesota side, or are we good on this game?
No, well, I know you're betting Nebraska anyway, so
right. Yeah, you're not going to sell me either way.
That's not going to matter. But for those out there that want to try to just look at it and analyze it, hopefully I was able to give you a little bit more information that may or may not help you make a final decision before game time.
Okay, well, I think that's about all we needed to say for this one. I want to appreciate everybody joining in. Make sure that you go ahead and use Spank Odds so you can take a look at the board, just like we did here. And I think that's about it for today. Fats, do you have any closing comments, or how do they follow you? How do they follow you on Twitter? What's your Twitter handle?
At Twitter, I'm at real_fats, REAL_FATS, and my DMs are always open in case anybody wants to ask me a question. I do respond to all my DMs. So if you have a question and I can help you, I'm happy to do it. I can't always guarantee a quick response, but in general, I get back to most people the same day.
Yeah, you get back to me very quickly, and I appreciate that. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, or you want me to ask Fats a question when we do the next one, you can send me a direct message at Vegas Horse Pools. And if you have any questions about Spank Odds, you can send me a message at Spank Odds. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining.